This episode is brought to you by Walmart. New beauty is in bloom at Walmart, and it's all about springtime radiance. From Drybar, Tula Skincare, and hundreds more available online, Walmart has the premium brands you want and this season's on-trend products for flawless, glossy hair and hydrated skin. Big name beauty brands? Check. The things you love? Check. Find trending spring beauty and all you need to look and feel gorgeous at Walmart, on app and online.
Taking you behind the curtain. It's the Joan Hamburg Show. Talk Radio 77 WABC.
Welcome, everyone, to the Joan Hamburg Show. You know, we're looking back. People already are acting as if what we all went through is over, and I certainly hope so. But when I think about what I did for 2.5 years, I sort of come up with nothing. But actress and singer, writer, educator Sharon Wheatley had a different adventure. In fact, I was fascinated when I read that Sharon had written a book. She had written a book before, but she had a new book called Drive, and she and her family did something that I have fantasized about. I have a kid who lives in California, and of course, like so many of you with children and family away, we hadn't seen each other in a really long time. I wanted to rent an RV, drive across country, park in his driveway, and say, Mom's here. But everyone I knew talked me out of it. You can't do it. You don't know how to do it. It's huge. How will you get gas back up? Sharon Wheatley didn't listen to the naysayers. And when her Broadway show, she was working, Come From Away, and her wife, who is a theater manager, was working, but both their shows were on hold for the moment, or thought they were going to be on hold. Everyone thought it would be a matter of weeks. When her kids had school situations that were not going to be as usual, Sharon did something incredible. Welcome. I got the biggest kick out of reading Drive because it was not only funny, it was a look at America. And look at how people are living. And it was, you know, that you did that was just incredible.
Thank you. I have to say, I look back on it now and I think exactly the same thing. I can't believe we did it. I mean, I'm in the process of looking at booking a little spring break trip. And to be honest, I'm looking at, you know, ritzy hotels and how nice can I
Resorts.
make it? Yeah. No, I'm a resort girl. I am not a let's hop in an RV kind of a girl. I had never been in one in my life, nor, unlike you, I had never fantasized about doing it. But, you know, as we all know, coming through this pandemic, sometimes necessity is the motherhood of invention. And I had to get my child from one coast to the other, and I was raised to make difficult situations an adventure. And I thought, how can I do this? And I was scared.
I'd be scared too. And you were having company, you know, but still. So where did the IV, did you just wake up and say, I'm going to do this and look at this? Because of the pandemic, no one wanted to stay in hotels or motels and worry about food and eating in restaurants, right? It was anxiety time.
It's true. And, you know, sometimes it's when we look back at the beginning days of the pandemic now, you know, I don't think that people are nearly as hesitant to stay in a hotel. I think that we've all figured it out in a way that we didn't have it figured out back in May and June of 2020. That was still very much, you know, life was shut down, and people weren't traveling on airplanes and people weren't staying in hotels. There was still a lot of, I mean, I remember hearing stories about people who would rent a hotel for 2 nights and they would let the hotel room sit empty for the first night to get out any, you know, infections that might be in the air. And then they would stay there the second night. And I just thought, well, that sounds expensive and still risky in terms of having to check in and go into elevators and everything else. And there was always the issue of really simple things like a public restroom. if you drive across country, you're still having to go into every public restroom. It seemed like everything I looked at was incredibly risky.
Right. Everything was threatening, and it really was, because we didn't know anything.
It's true. And I have, and I think there are many parents who are divorced and have agreements with their
spouses,
child's other parent. Toby needed to spend the summer with their dad in San Diego. And I thought, how can I do this? So I went around and around and around about it. And my wife, unlike me, had done some RV trips in childhood. I mean, really, it was just her grandparents who were driving, and she didn't do anything. But she had very nostalgic memories of this and had always said, I want to go around in an RV. And I kind of just said, sure, someday, thinking never. So I had a pretty good idea when I came up with the idea. I just kept thinking, what can I do that's self-contained? And it just kept coming back around to RVs. And at that time, no one was renting an RV except healthcare workers who were renting them and parking in their own driveways so that they could come and go to the hospital without
safely
infecting their kids. Yeah. So I got a great deal because no one was doing it at the time. And they gave me an open-ended contract, which I didn't think that I would need. But we ended up hopping in that RV and figuring it out. And we stayed in it for 91 days.
It's incredible because even though you were a Cincinnati girl and grew up where, even if you didn't live there, where I grew up in a town where I was in my car from the time it was legal and we drove all the time, but you're a New York City actress for all these years. And it isn't like you're driving great adventures or over difficult terrain. You had to get in this huge thing, and neither of you had done this really, where you were behind the wheel. And you had a kid with you, more than one at sometimes. And you had to figure it out, how to dump stuff out of it, how to gas it, how to turn it, how to make it in a driveway. I still don't know, even reading your book, Drive, how you did this.
We watched
Did you
YouTube
go to
videos.
school, by the way, for it before you took off?
No. I mean, we went to YouTube school. We sat, I mean, the luxury of the pandemic is that we did have a lot of time as Toby was in homeschool and finishing up sixth grade, which is the grade that Toby was in at the time. Martha and I sat in the living room of the Airbnb that we had rented in Cincinnati, and we watched YouTube videos, which there are tons of them, with every single different detail about how to dump it. And Martha would focus on all of the functions of how to dump the this and the that and this and the that. Meanwhile, I was planning the color scheme and how to have the most comfortable bed and how do you drive and not have, your smoothie maker fall and smash in an RV. So we were working on completely different things, but it in this case, it worked really well. That we're so different, it worked very well it was in our favor. But it was still incredibly intimidating, and we learned so much just on the first day.
Well, and then when your wife had to go because her show was needing her, and they were doing recordings and stuff where and it was thrilling because you guys also had to deal with the money issue. When actors don't work, they don't get paid.
That's right. I mean, we had basically, my sister said to me at one point, how are you going to pay for this? And I said, I've got a 0% credit card and a dream. I mean, we just put it all on a 0% credit card. So Martha was the production stage manager of Diana the Musical, and they did a lot of work during the pandemic on the show. And so Martha was constantly in Zoom meetings for Diana, and we were racing from free Wi-Fi to free Wi-Fi, trying to make sure that she was able to get in on these Zoom meetings, parking in McDonald's parking lots or parking in Starbucks parking lots or public libraries, any place that had free Wi-Fi that might reach the RV. So that became an unexpected goal to achieve every day. And she would do Zoom meetings, and I would walk the dogs or whatever. And then we were somewhere in the middle of Montana. I mean, really deeply in Montana. And she got a call that they were going to film Diana the Musical for Netflix. Now,
that's a break.
I mean, it was great. And, well, Martha cried, and I crunched numbers is kind of how it came down. And we looked at each other and said, you've got to go. You have to go and do this. And so then the decision was, am I going to turn the RV in and wait it out, or am I going to keep it out? And at this point, it was so close to the time when Toby was going to be done in San Diego. And then we had the issue of getting them back. And at this point, my older daughter, Charlotte, was also in San Diego now at this point. And so I just called Charlotte up and said, what do you think? Can we do this? And Charlotte agrees to everything. And I
Right. How old is Charlotte? She was a teenager, or
she was 23.
23. So
yeah,
for her,
22 actually at the time. Oh yeah, she was totally into it, and I just thought, it's interesting here. I wrote this book called Drive, and I talk about driving an RV, and I sound so cavalier about it, but the truth is, I was very nervous to do it. Very nervous to do it.
Sure, by yourself, really, with your kid.
Yeah, and I thought, and Martha had done the majority of the driving, I would say, and I'm a very good driver, but, the pandemic, as everybody knows, I think did take a toll on people's psyche in a lot of ways. And I was having some anxiety issues and everything else, and I thought, I really have to think about whether or not I can do this, just safety-wise. I mean, I knew I wasn't going to wreck the RV, but I just thought, do I want to?
Provoking.
Yeah, do I want to white knuckle it? Really, was my question. And when Charlotte was so into it, I just thought, she had felt left out. Here we had been on this trip, and she,
with her brother.
Yeah, exactly. She'd been doing something else, and she really wanted to go. And I thought, all right, this is a moment where I show my kids what I'm made of.
Right.
And so in a lot of ways, I think the book is about a lot of things, but the book's about parenting.
It is. And resilience.
Yeah. Yeah. And we had a blast. I mean, it was, I always said to Martha, I said, if you really replay your life when you die, those moments before, these are the days that will go through my head of what we did during that time. And my kids and I know each other on a different level, and Martha and I certainly do. And we all argued, and we all, it was a Technicolor.
Yeah, you're tough. You're
trip.
In a box, a great big box on wheels.
And
you had animals with you too. It wasn't like it was just you and one or two kids. It was a whole menagerie in there.
It was. Well, when you're packing up your life, you pack up everything.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, my gosh. And there were so many funny scenes of you guys pulling with this huge thing into friends in various parts of America into their driveways. And because of the pandemic, no one was willing to let this crazy family in their houses because of contamination.
It's true. Nor did we want to do that. I mean, we really felt very protective of everyone that we were seeing, but also people were lonely. I mean, by this point, this is June, July, August, September of 2020, and people had been stuck in their houses for a long time. So we just got this crazy notion to do something that in the RV community is called mooch docking, which is where you park in someone's driveway and then you run an extension cord, just a basic outdoor extension cord like you would use for like Christmas lights, into their house. And then we could use that to make coffee in the morning or run a fan. But they call it mooch docking because you're borrowing their power.
Their power.
And we would, fill up our tank with their hose so that we had water. And then we would just barbecue and stay outside. We never went in anybody's house. We slept in the RV. We used our own bathroom. But we got to visit with people across the country, and our friends were very starved for visitors. Yeah, so we always said, if you had a flat driveway and we knew you, chances were you were going to get a phone call from us at some point.
And there you were. I'm talking to Sharon Wheatley and her new book, Drive. Do you sense, having driven across and into gorgeous places and not gorgeous places and meeting people everywhere, that you got a feeling of what America's about or what people were thinking during those times? There's been so much anger and so much political stuff. You guys are in the world of art and theater. That isn't your world. Was that evident or it wasn't? You all had a commonality.
One of the goals of the trip, that Martha and I set as a goal in the beginning, was that we wanted to get out in America. And originally the book was called Out in America, which I liked because it had a double meaning. It had sort of, Martha and I as a gay couple out in America, but also just being, Martha and I live and work within a 5-block radius. And here in Manhattan, in the epicenter of, liberalism, as my dad would say, your politics have to do with your zip code, which always made me mad. He was very Republican. My mother was very Republican, both of them conservative, Martha's parents as well. And when my parents died, I had this sense of my connection to the other political party, the other view of America is gone. And I think both Martha and I felt very strongly about wanting to get out in America and meet people. And, the RV community, and this is a massive generalization. It's different state by state. For example, in California.
Experience.
Yeah, but in California, a lot more people, in the West Coast in general, a lot more people RV than they do here on the East Coast. Again, generalization. But it is a highly military crowd. It is a much more conservative crowd. And we knew and felt the risk of driving into different RV campgrounds as two married women. And I definitely was nervous about it. Martha's more comfortable in general. And less, I'm a nervous Nelly. So, I'm nervous about everything. I found that people absolutely are people. You can watch Fox News or you can watch MSNBC. You can listen to all the reports, but I'm here to tell you that people are nice and kind and they were helpful. And the best thing was we found the themes of the show that I'm in, Come From Away, which is all about traveling and getting stranded somewhere and then relying on the kindness of strangers, regardless of everything, to be true in America as well. So that's the really good news that I have. If we had an issue, people were more than willing to come over and say, this is how you use this adapter. This is, your pump is stuck. You need to do this, or this is why this is leaking. And then we would chat and we had a great time. And I think they admired that we were out doing it and trying. And, 2 women in a 30-foot RV with 2 dogs and 2 cats, you get noticed.
Right. And a young kid in the beginning.
That's right. And obviously not knowing what we're doing. And the RV that we rented has gigantic graphics on it. You can't miss us. So it was, I would say more than anything, that's what I took away from the trip. I came back with a much greater sense of calm, even as I was watching the news. I thought, this is what people talk about, but it isn't. We've lived it. We lived it on a one-on-one interpersonal way that made me feel really good about who people are.
And do you feel when you come from away has opened. You're back on Broadway,
Yes.
playing Diane. But did you feel as a different person? Was it life-changing, or is that just what people say when they're describing something? When you came back to the real world, Hell's Kitchen, the normal New York day-to-day is so different, and working on Broadway 8 shows a week. Were you a new you, or what was the perspective, Sharon? Sharon Wheatley is my guest.
That's such a good question. Honestly, I think what had happened with me is that I had become my job. I had been in Come From Away since 2015. I had been on Broadway for a long time. And I had lost track of who I was underneath all of that. And so I do think that I came back with more confidence of there's life beyond this job for me. But I also can't, that doesn't mean I didn't sit in, a shopping mall parking lot in the middle of Washington State on a Tuesday night at 8:00 when I would normally be on stage,
Right.
In the middle of the pandemic. I mean, somebody sent me a video of people singing, one of the songs from Come From Away, and I clicked on it and started to listen to it, and I lost it. And I looked at Martha and I said, I can't go there. I have to stay very
centered or
contained.
focused.
Yes, exactly. And I have to stay right where I am and enjoy it. I definitely came back to Hell's Kitchen. I mean, just speaking honestly, and noticed so much more of the crime and the drugs and the dirt.
Right.
I think that's normal, having been where I was.
But it's gotten worse.
Yeah, it's definitely gotten worse. There's no two ways about it. And I miss waking up to birds. I miss building a campfire at night. I miss looking at the stars. I know that's all out there, and it is a beautiful thing to be back with my second family and doing this show that means so much to people, and that I think people need to see right now. Not to do a plug for the show, but in all honesty, this is the show that if people are coming back to Broadway, I think this is the right one to see, because it reminds you that people are kind. And being part of that message every night is so important to me and to all of us that work on the show. It is about resilience. It is about kindness. And so I do have a deeper, richer perspective on that, having lived it during the pandemic.
Right. And the truth is, in Drive, you'll also find out how Sharon got this wonderful part in a wonderful show. When a show starts, no one knows what's going to happen to it.
Right.
And to just get these parts it's the luck of the draw. It's like winning the lottery, the chances of that. So this was a huge get at a complicated time. I'm curious too, you had your little boy, he wasn't so little, but he's, a kid still, with you on part of this trip. Do you feel it changed him in any way, or because he's just a kid, it was all part of, this is what I'm doing now? How about your relationship with him or your wives?
Well, here we get into the most 2022 correction that I need to make ever. So just go with me on this. One of the things that has happened for a lot of children during the pandemic is there's been this sort of gender revolution, which I am still figuring out. And
I
so
don't get it.
Toby, I know. Believe me, I don't always
no
either.
One's a he or a she. They're a there
That's right.
or a whatever.
That's right. Toby is a they, them, and Toby was born female and actually had a different name. And so this has all happened during the pandemic. So Toby isn't a boy. Toby's a they, them. At the time when it's interesting, I will tell you this, at the time when I was writing the book and at the time when the trip started, Toby was at that point still Beatrix, which Toby allows me to say. Some kids are very rigid about, you can't say my previous name, and they call it a dead name. But Toby and I had long conversations about name and gender, but Toby was still a girl, and Toby was Beatrix. So the first draft of the book is all she, her, and is all Beatrix. And I had to go back in and change. And I realized on page 44, there's still a her. So I have to go back in and ask my publishing company if they can fix that for the next printing. But I will say I work at night, generally speaking, right? 6 days a week. And my show is very short, but I don't
still,
always
you're gone.
Yeah, I don't always get to sit down and have dinner. Now I do as much quality time with Toby as I possibly can. And I'm always the first person out of the theater rushing home to be with Toby. And I can walk in the door at 9:00 and really do all the bedtime stuff and, all that. And we're in very close contact all the time. But I think for Toby, it was the pandemic, as it has been for so many kids, has been so traumatizing. And to give Toby and Charlotte, who's my older one, this gift of learning how to make life an adventure, even when the adventure is my mom's in a bad mood, the dog just threw up, now I've got to walk the dogs, the fire won't start, it's raining, it's muddy. It's at least we have something, and we were all together, and we laughed, and we cried, and we have something vibrant. And it wasn't just, I'm going to sit on the couch and worry and wring my hands about what to do. And I think that was a really valuable experience for Toby.
I'm sure. Well, it's a great adventure, and thank you, Sharon Wheatley, for sharing it with us. It's called Drive, and it's going to take you all across America and meet a family you might not have met before, find out what it was like growing up in the Midwest in Cincinnati, and that people are people all over, no matter where. So you gave us a gift. All the best to you and your family.
Thank you for having me on. I'm so honored.
It's a pleasure, and I'm so happy that you're back on that wonderful show.
Me too.
Yeah, everyone go see it, and I look forward to talking to you again. Take care.
Thank you so much. Take care.
I'm Joan Hamburg, and you're listening to WABC. More to come.
When your company earns unlimited 2% cash back on all purchases with Capital One, that's serious business. So Stephen at SandCloud got a serious business card, the Spark Cash Plus card from Capital One.
We used our 2% cash back to help build our retail presence.
Savvy, Stephen.
And we get big purchasing power, so our business can spend more and earn more.
The Spark Cash Plus card from Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms and conditions apply. Find out more at CapitalOne.com/SparkCashPlus.